Okay, I want to make a video here, and let me preference this with, I tried to tell somebody that's kind of knowledgeable about cars that I was talking with, emailing with, about doing this. Okay, this is my scan tool. I'm not sure if you can see the screen, if it's showing up with what's reading, but it's showing me at the ALDL connector, I've got 12.51 volts, and this is, I got mine in the starter test. This here also has probes for, or I'm sorry, plugs for meter probes. It has a meter built into the scan tool. But the important part of this is, this information here is, I'm doing this, this is the voltage at my ALDL connector, which means that the ECM has 12.51 volts going to it, and the ALDL connector under dash, remember, all your data that comes through that ALDL is going through your ECM. So I know I've got 12.51 volts of power going to the ECM. So if I had an electrical issue I was trying to diagnose in my truck, that would be majorly important. Okay, so if I only had, say, 9 volts at the ECM, but I had 13.08 at the battery, and let's say I have 13 volts at the coil packs, well, that would tell me that I got a problem someplace in the wiring going to the ECM. Or if I only had half the voltage I was supposed to at the injectors, but I have full voltage at the ECM, yeah, that gives me an idea where to look. Let me pause this and I'll go out under hood. Okay, here I am under the hood. I got the probes put in, and you can see now I'm showing 12.47 at the battery, and I'm not holding the probes by hand. I might get a better reading if I was holding them. I just got that set in there. I don't know if you can see that positive cable. I'm trying to show where it's in there, and the stand on the meter's kind of in the way. I just got them set in there. My hood struts are getting a bit weak, and for some reason today I got to hold the hood with my head. So, okay, and with my, what some might call an old school meter, this is a cheaper one. This is a Syntec. I actually got this second hand off a buddy of mine. I did a couple things for him, and he threw us in with some other stuff that he gave me, but just, I'm not holding the probes onto the battery. They're set in there. I got 12.82. Well, this battery is a new battery because my old battery that I bought the second week of February last year died. And you're going, oh, how does a year-old battery die? Well, All Trainer, when running, was putting out 14.5 something, like 14.56 volts. Shut it off and you'd have a fully charged battery, 13.08, and it would start going down, and within 2 hours it was at 10.49. Well, I thought to myself, well, let's try this again without the cables on. Took the cables off, charged the battery with my battery charger. Took the charger off, you know, it only took it a half hour to get up to, it's a 6 amp charger. It only took it a half hour to be up to 13.08. Disconnected the charger, had nothing hooked up, and it still went down to 1049. That morning, the truck wouldn't start. It was around 10 degrees in the morning. Truck wouldn't start. Well, I came home from work at 4 in the afternoon. It was about 32 degrees, and the truck started, just barely. Well, I managed to make it to work for 2 days, and then I got the battery replaced. So they tried to give me guff, and it says 1 year free replacement. They tried to charge me money, and that was on February 1st. And I told the lady, I said, there's no way I could have bought it any later than February 1st, because February 1st and the battery was marked February 17. So I ended up getting my free replacement. But I actually did. I had a year-old battery, and I left that meter on this whole time, die. Bad cells. It does happen. This is why batteries like these, they have a warranty on them. And no, I don't take the caps off there on a car battery and test the water and the acid in there. A year-old battery, you should not have to check the acid or the water in it on a car battery, automotive battery. You shouldn't have to until, you know, you're around the end of the service life. It shouldn't be an issue. And since 2017, when I put that battery in, I may have drove 6,000 miles. So it's not like I'm putting, you know, 3 times the yearly usage on the vehicle and it's constantly being used. No. And it's very rare that the thing ever sits for more than a week in the warm weather without being started, and more than 4 or 5 days in the cold weather without being started and ran for a good amount of time to charge it up. But back to the scan tool here. Okay. If you look at my wiring there, you can already see that the main harness where it comes out of the ECM, and that is the ECM back there in the firewall on this Explorer, has had repairs before, and that was done before I got the vehicle. They have part of the security system disabled because it was shorting out, and they could not figure out where the short was. So if I've got full voltage at that computer terminal, the ALDL terminal under dash, if I've got good voltage there, but I don't elsewhere, that tells me something. That there is a diagnostic tool. I was trying to tell somebody about this who prefers using old school methods, but has scanners and does their own vehicle diagnostics on Ford vehicles. He didn't understand. I was trying to tell him about something else he could use as a tool to diagnose with. Yeah. When I figured out I had a problem, I actually hadn't charged that thing in so long that it had to be charged overnight. I couldn't use it. So, got this thing out, used it. Yeah. I've done this test. This has a starter test in there and an alternator test. I've checked those fairly recently, so I knew about what percentage my starter was taking, how it was doing. I knew about my alternator. The starter, I replaced it with a rebuilt unit a few years back. The alternator is a parts store rebuilt. The starter was rebuilt by my local rebuilder. Exchanged, one for another one that he already had. So, and since then I've replaced the solenoid on the starter too, which the one time I had starting issues after the starter went to place and it wouldn't start, and the interior lights were really dim and I couldn't figure it out. But then I'd get some back and some circuits had full power and others didn't, and I wasn't at home. Well, I went to reached in through the inner fender well after it cooled off enough, the right inner fender well, and got my hands on the wires to the starter. One of those terminals was loose on the solenoid. I was able to jerk on it and start the truck and drive it home. So, next day I ordered a solenoid. It took it a week to come in, and it cost me $40. The starter only cost $89 rebuilt, where the auto parts stores ones were like $150, $160 for ones with 90-day warranty. This had 2-year warranty, but the solenoid that was on there, he told me solenoids weren't warranted. And, I got like a year or 2 years out of the solenoid, so I wasn't upset. But, it was a weird electrical issue. I was away from home and didn't have my scan tool with me and didn't have tools with me. I was going to have my truck towed home, and I figured it out and got it started. Well, I knew it wasn't that. It sounded like my starter was cranking slow because I had low voltage. If you have 10.49 volts at the battery and it is above 35 degrees, this truck will start. It spins slowly, but it will start. If it's below 20 degrees, you need about 11 volts in the battery, and this will start. Now, I've had ground issues before, and if you look at those cables, they look horrible. I can't make those cables very much shorter. I need to replace all the cables, and that cable goes all the way down under that motor along a cross member down to the starter on the passenger side, and it is a very long cable, and it is going to be a nightmare to replace. The ends were cut off it years ago, and aftermarket ends were put on there, and the wire where the sheathing was peeled back, and believe it or not, I've trimmed copper off there, but I have never peeled back any more sheathing. This is how it was when I got the truck in 2010, and I've had the truck since January of 2010. So if you think about it, in 8 years I've had the truck, these cables have been peeled back that far, and I've trimmed almost an inch of copper off there to trim out the corroded wires, and I've put on different replacement clamps every few years, because these things here, after enough vibrations and rough road usage, they start to crack. That's why this one here in this terminal I put on February 2017, the day I put the battery in. I've got that cranked all the way down. It's getting loose. I just put that on last week. I'm going to have to tighten that down more. Check this one here. That one's good and tight. That one I'm going to have to fix. All right, I'm going to get off here for now and upload a video. I know I've been lacking. Switched jobs, and a couple other changes been going on that I'm not ready to discuss fully. So it might be a while before there's more videos. Remember, it's not you guys that are the issue. It's my life. Talk to y'all later.